Hello everyone! In this video I will show you how to correctly transfer your geometry from 3ds Max to Unreal Engine using the Datasmith plugin. While doing so, maintaining the optimization of your project to make it easier to work with in the future. Let's go! To install Datasmith itself, we need to download it from the Epic Games website. For this, we simply type Unreal, Datasmith in Google. And we land on the required site, open it, and see the description. We simply need to go to Get Plugin. We select the Unreal version we need. Since we will be working with the newest 5.5, this suits us. If you need versions for older Unreal, you can find them here. Download and install. It will automatically detect which 3D Max you have installed. And we click Install. I already have it installed, so I won't install it again. We move to 3D Max. In 3D Max, after installing Datasmith, here in the ribbon, a Datasmith toolbar will appear. And we have a few new buttons. If it's an older Max 21, exporting with Datasmith is done through File Export. And here, instead of FBX in the list, you can choose Datasmith. After 21 Max, it moved here to the ribbon. So we have two options for working with Datasmith. The first is simply File, Export, either exporting the entire file or the selected geometry. The second option is Direct Link. The first option is just geometry being transferred to Unreal. We import it there, and further work is done only there. In the case of choosing Direct Link, we can continue working in 3D Max, and all our changes will automatically be transferred to Unreal. Let's try this. We try Direct Link, enabling auto synchronization. We see that Direct Link has started. We switch to Unreal, and in Unreal, to enable the Datasmith plugin, we need to go to the Settings, Settings, Plugins, and find Data, and enable this Datasmith FBX importer and Datasmith importer. Check two boxes and here you will see a message. Restart your Unreal. Agree, click, and after restarting, Datasmith will appear here in the panel. Add to project. And here we have the Direct Link import. Click. It searches through our system for running programs that might be in Direct Link. Select our 3D Max, click Select, and it asks where to import everything we've done in 3D Max. Let's create a new folder. Name it 3D Max. OK. And a window appears in front of us asking what exactly we are transferring from 3D Max. Geometry materials with textures, lights, cameras, and animation. We don't pay attention to light maps. That's if we were baking the light. Always select only geometry and materials with textures. Lights, cameras, and animations are much faster and better configured directly in Unreal. Press Import. Wait a few seconds. And we see that the entire scene from 3D Max has already arrived. Textures are loading. I want to draw your attention to a few points that we get after importing geometry using Datasmith. That is, we received some materials. Some are transferred well, like stone, only it is without displacement, which we will later configure in the lesson on Pro Materials. The metal on the roof looks quite good. The wood looks quite good, plaster could be. But as you can see, for example, here we have asphalt, and it is practically invisible. Although the normal map texture arrived, for some reason the albedo, or diffuse, did not. And here it's the same. The normal map is there, but for some reason The color texture did not arrive. Now, a few words about how Datasmith works and what files we get in Unreal after import. We imported our scene into the 3ds Max folder. Here it is. A folder appears with the same name as the 3ds Max file. We enter it and we see a file like this. This is a kind of container that holds everything that was imported into the scene, stored in this container. But if we need some individual elements, for example, to duplicate them again, there is a folder for that, geometry. That is, upon entering, we see that here separately, there are plants from the interior, chairs from the interior, pots, and so on. But going back up the folder, we have the entire container, and we can, for example, even extract the whole scene like this again. And we simply get a copy. So this is a container that includes everything that came from 3ds Max. I'll press Ctrl-Z. We also received materials. That folder with textures. Let's return to 3ds Max. And for example, model something like, or perhaps near our house. Let's add some objects. And see that upon returning to Unreal, an update occurs. And these objects immediately appear in this scene. So you can work in 3D Max, search for shapes, model something, and check how it looks in Unreal. It already appears with lighting, because here we can easily control our light. We will talk about this later, but this is how you can work in real time, creating objects in 3D Max and see how they look immediately in Unreal. Now, a few words about the materials that have been imported into our scene, specifically about optimization of the process. Why Datasmith can sometimes be bad for us and for optimizing our scene. For example, you chose the direct link synchronization method. Modeling, trying something out. Now we have synchronized with you. Let's see what we have in the folder. There are 61 materials. 60 materials, because there is one more folder. If I press Ctrl A and remove the folder from the selection, we have 60 selected materials. Now, and look at this nuance. I will open the material editor and assign 3 additional materials to our new objects. 1, 2, and 3. We simulate work, we are modeling something, applying some materials in 3D Max. We applied these materials, let's even add another sphere. We'll apply it to that as well. Material. We return to Unreal and see that the materials we applied are here. I applied chrome, gold. It was supposed to be velvet, but it came out just purple. And also, a sphere should appear here somewhere now. And look at what happened. We have added materials. We had 60, and now there are 63 because we added 3. New materials were added in 3D Max. Let's go back to 3D Max and delete this object. We changed our mind, or it didn't suit us. Let's try further. We modeled new ones. Let's model new ones. Let's add a cone and a pyramid on which we won't apply any materials for now. Let's return to Unreal. Our new objects have appeared, but as we can see, there are no fewer materials. There are still 63 of them. So if you continue with direct link, modeling, trying something, applying different materials, seeing how it looks, the old materials are not deleted. And over time, you may have a lot of clutter in this folder. You need to keep an eye on this. And that's why direct link is not about the final file, but rather about finding the form, finding the light, and later, I would still advise switching. Just once you have found, modeled, and you already have your final version of your geometry, then we simply create a file, export it, and we'll have a file that we can also bring into Unreal using Datasmith. This time, it won't be direct link, but a file import, and everything else will look the same. Only after this, we can close 3D Max and not even return to it. The second point concerns what groups. that are made in 3D Max. For example, here we have a door, and it is grouped, meaning it is a group. It arrived in Unreal not as a group, or rather as a group of several objects. Here we see certain objects in the outliner, and they are gathered in a group. And our group is also in our outliner. The outliner is a list of all objects. And it shows that there are currently 206 actors in our scene, meaning 206. Some objects are in our scene. Everything is considered as actors or objects, from geometry to even lights that we throw into the scene. For example, I take a light bulb and throw it into the scene. A new actor was added, making it 207. So everything in our scene is counted as objects. We have 207 of them. But if we go to the folder with geometry that came to us from 3D Max, we see that we have only 104 objects from the geometry itself. So all the other actors here, these objects, which are now 207, mean there are practically 100 objects. Some kind of incomprehensible clutter. And these are all our groups. So each group, after 3D Max, will hang in your scene as these small objects, which are sometimes not even visible, but you can select them, and they will interfere. For example, when you have window frames, doors, you need to assign to all of them a different material because it doesn't suit us. You want to adjust or choose another one. And instead of clicking each one like this, selecting throughout the scene, there might be a lot of them flying around. It will just take a long time if there are many. We could simply select them here in the outliner and with Shift select a large number, but because of those groups, we don't see the properties of the doors themselves, we see the properties of several different objects. So we don't have anything here that pertains to the doors themselves, because if I now select the doors or a window frame, we see the material, some properties specifically of the geometry, but if we select it along with the group, we get some uncleared information that we don't need. However, along with the geometry, it also doesn't show us any materials or anything. Therefore, these groups will hinder us later in the work. This is not a rule, it's nothing serious. I'm just telling you in advance that it might affect your productivity and work speed, because you'll have to click one by one or filter. Well, more on this later, but you need to know all these nuances. And also, the more of those actors in our scene, the heavier it becomes for calculation for Unreal. Therefore, as I already mentioned, the first recommendation before starting work in Unreal is to have a copy of your project, which should already be approved. This, of course, is not mandatory. There might be some edits, that's unavoidable, but you simply make a copy, remove all modifiers, and just switch to edit mode so there are no modifiers left, just bare geometry, which imports into Unreal as smoothly as possible. And after that, you can also remove all the groups. It will be easier this way. Later, I will show how we will properly work with our geometry in Unreal, and this will be more correct and easier for Unreal to calculate everything. These are the nuances we have when working with Datasmith. This is how easily you can transfer your scene from 3ds Max to Unreal Engine using Datasmith. Now, you can proceed to materials and lighting, which we will discuss in the next videos. So be sure to subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will try to answer everyone. And if you are completely new to Unreal, you can watch the previous video about the installation and interface of the program itself, then come back here. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.